helping my brother leave his bride at the altar because she and Ted, our estranged mother. A family drama unfolds with surprising twists. We are 34, 32, and 28, while his ex-fiancée is 30. Not in the US, I have two older brothers. This is about the middle one. Our parents split when I was quite young, owing to our mother's irrational jealousy. My father was able to deal with it at first, but when she made comments about wanting me to be like his wife, he had had enough. She quickly reconnected with a man with 2 children and shared custody for a period, but when my father remarried, she went insane, calling his new wife every awful term and claiming he had cheated on her while they were married. I was always closer to my brothers and father than my mother, who was always harsh to me. Long story short, my stepmother died in a horrific car accident, and my father contacted her in the middle of the night to tell her he would pick us up earlier so we could attend the burial. She chose to take us on a nice trip instead to commemorate something. It was the happiest we had ever seen her, and when we understood what had happened and began crying, she informed us that only useless people cry for prostitutes. Needless to say, things escalated, and my father requested full custody with citation privy leges for her. He always kept the lines of communication open and paid for us to see her after she moved away, but it was still really unpleasant. We began reducing contact with her as soon as we turned 18. We last saw her at my high school graduation, where she made it a point to tell everyone that we were ungrateful kids, and her husband also called us names. We have remained no contact since then. My brother Dave began dating his ex 3 years ago. She had heard all of the stories and reasons we were no contact, but she thought we were being theatrical. They had many disagreements because of her ideas, but she ultimately appeared to abandon the "you need to reconcile with your mother" crusade. Throughout the wedding preparation process, there was no sign that anything was incorrect or suspicious. Then on the wedding day, we arrived at the church and saw our mother, her husband, and 2 children sitting in the front row. I am instantly panicked and contacted my brothers. Dave suspected she had found out and wanted to crash the wedding, so he called his ex to tell her of the potential turmoil. She assured him that everything was fine because she had invited them. Dave hung up and asked me to go fetch him while our older brother handled things at the church. We went home and barricaded ourselves, even while his ex, her family, friends, and others attempted to reason with him. Mom's spouse even called to say he had always known we were useless. Now that the dust has settled, the majority of Dave's friends and family support him. Our father's ex-in-laws have already threatened to sue for the money they paid for the wedding if Dave does not marry her, but Dave says he would rather repay them than marry someone who has betrayed him. Our nuclear family wholeheartedly supports Dave, but the blowback has been massive. You just reassured us all, so thank you. Some have asked, and she hasn't apologized. She also texted my oldest brother Leo, saying she felt inviting our mother would be a nice wedding gift for Dave because she values family. My father purchased them a house as a wedding present, but only Dave is on the paperwork. She had keys for when they moved in, but we only got the locks changed today. Leo and other cousins are relocating Dave's belongings from her apartment this week. We aren't concerned about being sued, but we will consult a lawyer just in case. We also learned that Mom and her family are still in town, but because we're all staying at our childhood home for a few days, we don't mind. My father is saddened that Dave is heartbroken, but he is doing his best to cheer him up along with my boyfriend and sister-in-law. I had to deactivate my social media accounts because I was receiving abusive remarks and messages, but the more people hear about why Dave fled, the less messages I receive. I am still sorry that she was humiliated, but my brother comes first. I questioned Leo about the aftermath at the church, and it was precisely what I imagined. He claims he stood up in front of everyone and informed them Dave wasn't coming and that they should go home. All presents delivered to our side of the family will be promptly returned. The ex was still outside the church when some from her family notified her, and she began yelling and wailing, constantly contacting Dave. Mom tried to speak with Leo, but he didn't even glance at her. When she couldn't obtain a reaction from him, she burst into tears, lamenting how cruel we are to her. Some people began to console her, as is customary for her, but Leo and his wife were unconcerned. When they left the church, the ex was waiting for them and demanded to see Dave. Leo resisted, telling her no. Then she wanted to know what to do about the party, to which Leo said that if she didn't want the venue, he would arrange for the food to be distributed to the workers so that it didn't go to waste. Everyone was shouting except Leo, who kept calm since he didn't want to satisfy Mom. Leo and my sister-in-law returned home after stopping at the store and various fast food restaurants, and we've been inside the house like kids again with a few more members. When we asked Dave if he wanted them to leave, he insisted on staying. We had all planned to spend time with our families following the wedding, so it was not an issue when the ex arrived at the gate. We understood she was not going to use the venue, so my sister-in-law called the venue with Dave's information and asked them to give the food. She also sent some advice for their problems. It appears that we will receive all of the alcohol that my father paid for, so we will be pretty drunk by the end of the year. A few people messaged me asking why our father ever married our mother. The answer is simple: he adored her and felt she was the nicest person imaginable. It turned out she wasn't, but she knew no one else except possibly her unpleasant husband would marry her unless she seemed to be kind. Dad even considered staying with her until we were grown-ups, but her condition worsened. She used to be really sweet, and he thought she was changing, but she would then revert back. As for my ex-sister-in-law, we have no doubt she feels our mother is a nice person with ungrateful children, since she can be incredibly charming. Some indie VY duels find it amusing to make fun of others as long as it is not directed at them, but this does not excuse what she did. Dave's only explanation was to his boss who attended the wedding. His boss was quite kind and surprised by what our mother put us through given how well-adjusted and happy we appear. Our father stated it was a shock for all of us, and he told Dave to stay home for as long as he needed. Dave is returning home for the time being. I showed the post to my family who were affected by your thoughtfulness. Dave wants you to know that his ex-fiancée did not exhibit any alarming behaviors, and he honestly believed she understood his upbringing. He agreed to meet with her and her parents today, but only if it was at our house, where we could support him. It will be an interest VY sit. Dave lost some money, but it will not affect him. Her parents paid for her outfit, a very beautiful cake, and a portion of the honeymoon. His ex wasn't the most popular in-law, but we believe she adored Dave. We don't have any touch with Mom's side. Leo used to communicate with our grandmother, but after his wedding, another disaster, he cut her off too. Mom's statements about me wanting to be the wife stemmed from her idea that we shouldn't have daddy-daughter days. However, there were also Daddy Leo and Daddy Dave days. Dad constantly attempted to spend time with us both indie VY dually and as a group. She's just unwell. We don't advertise our childhood, so when others inquire about our parents, the typical response is it's just my dad, or it's just my siblings and my dad. Most people assume Mom is deceased, avoiding the unpleasant question about why we don't speak to her. Mom's stepchildren are both male and in their early 30s. Our father now has a long-term girlfriend, and we really enjoy her. She's been doing her own thing over the last 3 days, but she says we have her full support. I was curious why Dave agreed to the meeting after not speaking with her, but it turns out she sent videos and images of all his possessions on the floor to his best buddy Todd, and threatened to burn or destroy everything unless Dave spoke with her. Todd went to see Dave and told him what had transpired. They said her that they needed entry to the flat before anything could happen. Todd, Leo, a few cousins, and my boyfriend went over to pack Dave's clothes to CES and crucial documentation. Dave joked that they were the fastest MOVing staff he'd ever witnessed. The meeting, for lack of a better term, was absurd. She arrived with her parents and sisters and attempted to speak to Dave alone, but when he refused, she simply began chatting. Not once did she apologize. She stated it was not her fault, that we don't appreciate the value of a true family and were trained to despise mothers. She stated that her main purpose was to teach Dave to value mothers because she was terrified he would take her children from her, as he had been taught to do. Dave said nothing until she called our family a cult and humiliated our father. As you might expect, this is a sore subject for all of us, and we won't let anyone insult our father. Dave went off on her, calling her a disgusting liar, stating he was horrified that he had ever held her hand, and thanking the world that I am always early to everything. He informed her that sticking with a dishonest husband like her mother did is not anything to be proud of. He claimed she had merely pretended to be kind so that he would marry her. He then detailed all of the small faults he had overlooked because he sincerely loved her, or at least who he believed she was. Dave stated that he would never forgive her for the suffering she caused his siblings, but he did not hate her because she did not deserve so much of his attention. He concluded by saying she had had enough time to straighten things up, and that, because she acted like the VY Tim, he would make sure everyone understood why he didn't attend the wedding. It was horrible, but it was therapeutic and important for Dave. Her parents said nothing, but were clearly embarrassed. She cried, and her sisters attempted to defend her and their parents' relationship, expecting us to argue back, but we did not. Dave then told his ex-fiance's father, Peter, that he could sue if he wanted, but that doing so would expose all of his family's dirty laundry to the world, which he doubted Peter would want to see. Amazingly, Peter continued to urge that Dave should try to make amends and marry his ex since they're not getting any younger and all families fight. I have never rolled my eyes harder. The remainder of the meeting was spent on logistics, returning wedding gifts, ceasing harassment from their relatives, canceling the honeymoon, and changing the locks. Dave's ex was crying and attempting to talk to him, but Dave was all business and didn't want anything from her. He only answered directly when she mentioned keeping the engagement ring, even though no one had requested it. Later, when the booze arrived, our mother and husband crept through the gate. When it opened, she said she just wanted to talk to her baby boys. My father requested her to go, but she insisted that he had raised us incorrectly and that we had embarrassed her with our actions. She couldn't believe we were such bad people and suggested, did we make amends with her, because we clearly lacked maternal love. She got it right, and the outcome was pathetic. Leo walked outside and ordered her to go since the cops were on their way. She took advantage of the chance to cry because it was Leo's first conversation with her in roughly 10 years. She tried to persuade him to join her and her husband for dinner, but Leo simply urged her to go and stated that the only thing he wanted to hear about her was when her burial was so he could rejoice. Mom cried hysterically while her husband screamed, demanding an explanation and even threatening to strike Leo. My father and Leo went back inside and left them at the gate until we noticed they had finally left. Then we closed the gate. Some people struggle to comprehend why we behave the way we do, yet what I've said about our mother is only the tip of the iceberg. Dad wasn't very proud of what Leo said, but he saw that Leo needed to express himself and was speaking on behalf of all of us. Maybe this makes us awful people, but we really don't want to see her again. We will all have family therapy sessions in addition to Indy VY Dual once. Dave no longer wants the house, but Dad ad VY SES him to take things slowly, with the first step being to mend his heart. We've been watching horror MOVYE marathons with a few Disney oldies thrown in, and we've even created a drama bingo game with all of the possible outcomes. I suppose we are dramatic after all. We love each other, and we are educated to treat others with respect, yet when pushed we can be petty. While I would never wish to be abandoned at the altar, I would do it again because I adore my brother more than I feel sorry for her. We'll go on a family trip someday, but for now we'll just enjoy spending time together. To the Indy VY Dual who said Leo is a hero, his siblings could not have asked for a greater brother and friend. We have read all of your letters and would like to thank everyone for allowing us to vent for the awards and for their support. Sorry if my English isn't great. Leo and Dave are clearly fictitious names, but I hope you understand. Also, my brothers are reading your remarks and want you to know how much they appreciate your positive attitude to anyone in a similar circumstance. Know that things will get better. Some clarifications: you're welcome to PM us even if you are insulting us, but I will only answer publicly. To the Indy VY Dual who wrote me a harsh essay accusing Leo of being parentified, here is my response. My brothers spent time with me because they wanted. We had special days together and they did anything they pleased. They had a large circle of friends and traveled both with and without me. There were Nanny's family members and my father, so they were never obliged to bring me along. They enjoyed a great deal of freedom within reason. Our parents split when I was 3, and despite shared custody, we spent 90% of our time with Dad. We only went to see our mother in pairs. Leo and Dave only paid her VY sits once she turned 18, and I had to accompany them because they didn't want me alone. We've all been in therapy for a while, but now we're VYing extra sessions because we saw our mother again. Leo was the only one to interact with her. We also know how to defend ourselves. Leo confronted our mother on his own. We did not ask him to do so. Why didn't my dad accompany Leo to church? Because Dave begged our father to go home. We didn't think he needed to VY sit our mother again, even though he had to speak with her later. Dave has cried. He is not a monster. He is simply heartbroken. He believed he could spend the rest of his life with Dorina, that he was a good judge of character, and that he would never have to face our mother again. There are many emotions, but because of our upbringing, we've gotten quite skilled at controlling our feelings with people we don't trust or like. We learned this VY fallibility as a result of how we were treated. Leo had a relationship with our grandma, but he stopped communicating with her after she and VY ted our mother to his wedding as her +1. The location did not host any religious ceremonies and security had a no-entry list. Leo sent grandma a note and never spoke with her again. We also did not attend her funeral. The wedding had roughly 250 attendees and Dorina used different names on the seating chart, so we didn't know about the NVY Tatian. By the way, Dorina is not Brazilian and my father wanted me to let you know that his children are not alcoholics. He's worried that people will believe we are, even though this is anonymous. Anyway, this week has been crazy. Those who add VY said being prepared for the pregnancy technique were right on. She announced online that she was pregnant, leading others to stress out, and phoned Dave to see whether it was true. Dave called her and urged her to remove the post, but she kept insisting she was pregnant. He told her they needed to talk, so she erased the post and met up with him. This woman assumed he wanted her back. I accompanied Dave to meet her. She was joyful until she saw me enter the room, at which point she burst into tears and clutched her tummy. Dave questioned her whether she was truly pregnant, and she responded yes, claiming she did not want her child to grow up in a shattered home. Dave insisted on going to the doctor right away to confirm, and she cried even more, yelling that he didn't believe her. Long story short, she was not pregnant. However, following the encounter, she claimed online that Dave was pressuring her to have an abortion and that she was upset. As you may guess, this was terrible, and people were phoning Dave, unsure what to trust anymore. When my sister-in-law Olive learned about the post, she called Dorina. I am not sure what was stated during that chat, but I have never seen Olive so upset. The posts were removed, but Olive sent an email to everyone on the wedding list explaining everything, including the fact that Dorina was never pregnant. This morning we learned that Dorina had a breakdown and left voicemails for Dave stating that if she couldn't be with him, she wanted to die. This is straight out of our mother's playbook, so Dave called the cops and reported what had occurred. Her family put her into therapy, and she is currently being monitored. None of this makes us happy, but we don't want to be involved anymore. We've already changed our phone numbers and requested new ones. Our mother even emailed Olive threatening to sue her for defamation over the email campaign, but we aren't worried. Olive's parents are wonderful and fully back how she handled the situation. Leo was upset, but Olive persuaded him to let go and move forward. Mom's spouse has been charming as usual, and Dad is considering a restraining order, which isn't very effective where we live. We had a great time together at home yesterday. There was karaoke, dancing, delicious food and beverages, games, and even a bouncy house, because why not? We adore them. Most people avoided discussing the wedding and the drama, but those who did so in an appropriate manner. Dad has already handed most of the alcohol he paid for his wedding gifts to his employees, allowing them to select one bottle each. He's also including bottles in his Christmas gift baskets this year. We are spending the holidays together and traveling. I told Dave about a new paint color for the house, but he simply does not want to live there anymore. He plans to rent it out. When I joked about eloping or not having a formal wedding to avoid turmoil, Leo told me unequivocally that if I chose to marry, I would have the largest party ever. He is still the finest. Thank you for all of your wonderful comments and messages, not the negative ones, awards and interest in our situation. And to all the lovely Dorinas out there, sorry, but this is not about you. Holiday update. Thank you for your continued interest. It's always enjoyable to log in and keep you updated on the situation. First, a few points. Hello, finest subreddit in YouTube. You've become part of our family lore. I read every single comment and message. Some people commented that I lacked a feminine figure in my life, although I had my grandmother, aunts, and others. Rita, my father's girlfriend, is not a mother figure, and I do not consider myself a bad woman because of it. When I got my period, my father had a complete plan in place. He told my brothers, and they each took their own method. It may sound awkward to me, but it was even more so for them. It's a funny story that makes me realize how much they care about me. Rita is great and we adore her. She doesn't mind not being married to Dad, and he doesn't want to marry again, but if he did, we'd support him. Dorina's sisters attempted to stir up more trouble by accusing us of being nasty people, but after Olive's email, no one believed them. One of her sister's boyfriends even broke up with her because he didn't want to be associated with such a nasty family. I will not tell you where we live or what Dad does for a living, so please do not ask again. We have new phone numbers, social media identities, and are preparing a move. Leo and I also have some news. I keep a short note with fictitious names, and I type my posts in Word to prevent stumbling over my babbling. My father wants you all to know that your applications to the cult have been accepted. Anyway, I looked at the last update and couldn't believe it was only in early November. I mostly have positive news for you. Dave's doing great. He's taking time off work, and his supervisor is quite accommodating, telling him he may return when he's ready. He lives with Dad and has adequate savings, so he isn't concerned about money. He has taken up jogging and intends to compete in a marathon next year. Dave is gradually returning to his goofy self, and he is actively assisting Dad in renovating their home, primarily by painting rooms and creating murals. They have a great time. Dorina wrote Dave a note, but he returned it. The house was listed as a rental, which Dave is fine with. Now for some more exciting news, I am engaged. It turns out that this has been planned for months, and when I joked about eloping, my future husband Noah panicked. Because he assumed I had worked out his plot, he had already spoken with Dave, who was aware of the proposition, but did not want to make him uncomfortable. Leo and my father gave Noah a hard time when he asked for my hand, saying it was not his to give, but it was all in good fun. The proposal happened earlier this month, and I'm overjoyed, but not as much as my father, who insists on escorting me down the aisle, even if it's a CIVYL wedding. While my news is fantastic, the other major announcement in the family is much better.